3, 2.
I'm going to take another one just to irritate you.
Is it straight black coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Man after my own heart. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We're joined by head coach Josh Blankenship. This week, no players will be involved. That is fall break, so we'll just go back and forth with head coach. Let's talk a little bit about the Bixby game. Capri Harris, almost 100 yards on the ground. What makes him so special as a running back? Because it's not just his ability to get yards, but he's a pretty elusive player as well.
Yeah, you've got those athletic qualities that he has. You know, he's a long, strong, physical and quick, twitchy kid. You know, he's got those natural abilities that God blessed him with. But what he's really developed is that steady workhorse mentality that, especially with the group that we have this year, and then especially going against that front that Bixby has. It's kind of a body blow, hoping that you're able to slip something. And that's what what he's learned to become. And obviously what showed up in that game was he was just chipping away, trying to put a dent in it, and then eventually popped that long one.
You know, not just in the Bixby game, but overall, I mean, he also steps up to be a pass blocker as well. I mean, how special is that for you? That you don't really have to teach him that. He knows what's in store for him.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of that. You know, the guys behind him are very young, and that's kind of unfortunately, one of the last pieces a guy will be confident in at that position. There's a physicality piece there. There's a mental piece there of taking on. It can be a linebacker, which, guy coming off the edge with full head of steam, but a lot of times it can be a defensive end that might outweigh a guy. And so the technique on getting inside out on a guy is something that has to be developed. And Cabri's fearless at it, but he's also got the physical stature and stamina to go do that throughout a game.
Tayshawn Jones-Wade, another good game for him. He's becoming a playmaker that you can rely on. He's doing it on special teams. He's doing it on offense. He's doing it on punt returner. I mean, a lot is thrown at this young man. How special has he become so far?
It's still very special, but it's still early. He's still very, very young. We brought him up as a freshman last year with these kind of hopes and expectations, and really the last couple of weeks he's starting to not only flash, where people kind of get a glimpse of what it can be, but he's starting to do it consistently. 2 weeks ago against Westmore, he had easily his best offensive performance, against a really good corner too, which we were excited to see him do, which is an element of our offense that we've been missing too. So that really helps us as a whole. And then again, did it again this week. Big catch, on a singled up situation where it was a great throw by Coop, but it was a phenomenal catch. Had a pick on defense. He's playing full-time both ways, and I think the only tweak we made was I tried to get him off a couple other special teams because he's legitimately playing full-time both ways. So he's going to be very special, and we're starting to see little flashes of it.
I'm glad you brought up the catch because that was into the wind, and I mean, kind of an acrobatic catch. I mean, it reminded me of playing right field for baseball, but I mean, just his ability to catch that and make a big run out of it as well. It's stuff that you can't teach necessarily. It's just kind of God-given talent.
It's that, and then it's just reps, and then doing it in a big moment. Hopefully all the reps that you've been putting in at that start to produce and produce fruit, and he's starting to see the production. He's an incredibly hardworking guy too, so to see him having success is awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about the defense. I know it wasn't exactly the way that you wanted to see this team play against Bixby, but the one thing I got to commend our defensive line is, they kept playing up the entire time. They never faltered in the fact that they knew what was a task of them to defend this Spartan team. Break it down for me.
I really was pleased with how we played up front. Like you mentioned, we did not play well on defense as a whole. You look at the point total, and that's unacceptable. But then when you really evaluate the film and you evaluate guys individually, guys in groups, our box really played well against the run, especially. Where we struggled was on the shots. We weren't containing anything in the back end. So it doesn't matter how good you're playing up front. If they're going to complete those big things on you and score as fast as they did, then it got out of hand quickly. But when you go back and evaluate it, our guys up front on defense, I think I've talked about them all year, but they continue to get better and better and better. And, if there is, one thing that you want to be doing your best going into the season, it's stopping the run on defense. And, we're closer than it looks, and that sounds silly and cliche, but we really are. We're going to see, I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of Cooper Bates and Cabry Harris on the back end and on defense as well. Having Octavian back at running back maybe gives us a little bit more depth at back to be able to do that with Cabry. So I think those guys will make an impact as well. Was hesitant to do that early because, that's our one starting running back and our one starting quarterback. But it's that time. We're approaching playoffs, and so we'll start seeing what those guys can do to help us in the back end.
Couple sacks against Bixby. What's going through your head when you see your guys, play that sound football to pick up the sack? Because I know you want to congratulate them once they come off or whatever, but just going through the mindset of a player, because you're a former player, when you see a guy pick up a sack.
That's a potential game-changing play, So right now it's celebrating every good thing we see, intentional or reactive. It's you got to celebrate those things. I'm more big picture in the middle of the game, and so me going to celebrate with the guy is forced, because I'm already thinking about the next thing and the next thing. But I love guys having those moments to build on, especially if you're getting thumped in a game. It's good to find those things that you can celebrate.
I know we touched on Tayshawn Jones on the offense, but just his defensive ability, he seems like he's become a complete player of what you were hoping for out of him.
He's not yet either. Now he's still got such room to improve, and that's not a knock. Like, it's just how high the ceiling is for that guy. But yeah, he's doing it at all phases. There's a lot of guys that are. There's another young guy, Deshaun Jordan, a freshman. That was we were in a lot of 12 personnel because we're so thin at receiver right now. So only having 2 receivers out there, but for the majority of the game on offense, it was Tayshawn and DJ, a sophomore and a freshman. And then they're both playing both ways. So DJ's also playing a bunch of safety and, try not to do that to those young guys because their heads are spinning, but they welcome it and they're playing their butts off.
I'm glad you brought that all up because there's been a lot of different moving parts to this team on offense and defense. How are these young guys responding at this point in the season?
The young guys respond better than anybody. They're crushed after a loss. They're truly heartbroken, but there's a little bit of the youth that they're able to turn the page a little bit quicker. They are playing, which is, is pretty fulfilling, I think, for those guys, and they're soaking up all the coaching that they get because they're starting to see the growth and they're starting to see success come from it. So especially the young guys, they're really eager to go back to work and go get another week under their belt.
Coach, let's take a quick timeout. Coming up next, we'll preview Enid as we travel on the road this Friday night to take on the Plainsmen. You're watching Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Tulsa Bone and Joint, Northeast Oklahoma's sports medicine experts. We are pleased to help you and the athletes in your life with a number of surgical and non-surgical options. Tulsa Bone and Joint is proud to serve as team orthopedist for local high schools such as Broken Arrow, Owasso, Sapulpa, Cascia Hall, and Bishop Kelly. We're also proud to be team orthopedist for FC Tulsa. Tulsa Bone and Joint, moving life forward.
Your side hustle keeps you moving. We'll help you get where you really want to go. TTCU Federal Credit Union. Life is better in balance.
For families who like to build their wealth while staying liquid, we have flexible rate CDs to keep your funds working hard, even when you're not. First National Bank of Broken Arrow. The right balance.
At Ascension St. John, you'll find advanced heart care, brain and spine care, and personalized cancer care. And we excel just as much in the things that can't be measured. Listening more closely, caring more compassionately.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football. I'm Dan Hawk alongside head coach Josh Blankenship. Remember, it's brought to you by Rib Crib. We now hit the road to take on Enid, a team that just faced Westmore last week. And coincidentally, you guys just faced them not that long ago as well. So plenty of game tape to look at. What do you see on film when you look at Enid?
They're a dangerous group, like everybody we play. They've got a couple quarterbacks that can sling it around. They do like to spread it out and throw it quite a bit. There's a little bit of Coach Rashawn Woods, who was there previously. There's still a little bit of flavor of that on offense. They'll mix it up and do some goofy stuff as well. They'll get in some, people have different names for it, ninja, swinging gate. not just down on 2-point area, but, in the middle of the field. So they'll do some really creative stuff that it just forces you to prepare for a lot of things. And then defensively, they run that Coach Holly defense that he was here for a year, has made famous over at Stillwater, but kind of we call it minnow bucket, a bunch of guys just moving around, and then boom, they've got their gaps and assignments. But it's kind of a chaos type of walk around, which is you've got to be sound on offense. You got to stick with your rules. You can't chase ghosts and all the eye candy. So it's definitely a challenge. You add that to the road trip and going over there and playing over at Enid, and traveling a young group over there to do that. So the challenge is big, but like always, we're excited for it and ready to go.
It seems kind of like on offense and defense, from what I've been able to see, it's kind of like a basketball offense and defense. Is that the way you kind of see it on tape, where there's just so much movement all over the place?
A lot of movement, kind of a big play mentality. A lot of the defenses that we've seen have kind of been a bend but don't break, try to keep it all in front of you, contain it. They're more of a home run or home run the other way. It's kind of a live and die by the big play. Seems to be the case offensively too. They'll do some stuff that looks like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but that'll kind of tinker out, and then it's shots, and then they'll hit one shot and they'll kind of get a little life, and that's the bulk of their offense has been, big plays as opposed to consistently, methodically moving down the field.
They did get some points in the fourth quarter. They got 14 against Westmore, so it's a team that can score even late in a ball game. And they scared a little bit out of Westmore there. They didn't come back. But I mean, how do you teach the guys, hey, we got to contain all 4 quarters? This team could still come back to haunt us.
Yeah, that's not our issue right now. I mean, we've played every game until the fourth quarter. We haven't been in a game that we had wrapped up outside of Southmore. It's been one of those that either we're still trying to get out there and get reps and get better, or we're still trying to win the game all the way down to the last play. So that hadn't been an issue for us. Our young guys know that if there's clock on the board still rolling, that we're still playing football, and that piece I'm not concerned with at all.
Special teams, that could come a factor in this, because they obviously played well against Westmore. How do you envision that playing out this Friday?
Always want to be sound. I mean, when you're not sound, it costs you. When you are sound, big things can happen. But our expectations always be sound, to have the best 11 out there that we can put out there for special teams.
Coming out of the end here, as far as the regular season goes, coming into the playoff mode, what do you teach the boys at this point, or do we just look at it regular season and then focus on it? How do you break it all down for me?
Yeah, we talk about it all year. Now there's a big picture, with the immediate being in the front. The immediate is going 1-0. It's you can't start counting up record. You can't start counting up all the possibilities. We'll count it all up when it's done. So it's one day at a time, one game at a time. As cliche as that is, you have to have that mentality. But one of the things that's always been a piece of what we believe in our program is that we're playing our best football going into this time of year. That's been a challenge with all the change in personnel with injuries. But I believe we are, and we will be. I think this is a big week for us to really get some rhythm in every phase. And then not looking ahead, but looking ahead. You've got 2 more games before the playoff starts. So not only playing our best football the next 3 weeks going into the playoffs, but making the playoffs first of all, and then having the best seed possible. You look at the potential matchups that obviously there's crossover to the other district, and I would be excited to play any of those teams first round, and then just getting into the tournament's the first thing, and then once the tournament starts, then you can see a lot of magic happen, and we're always going to bank on that being a possibility.
I know you're looking at Enid game tape, but do you kind of like sprinkle a little bit of everybody because you kind of looking ahead?
Yeah, you don't have to because you're playing common opponents. So like even if you're studying their defense, you're aware of what the other offense is doing. If you're studying that offense, you're aware of what that other defense is, and so you get, even though there's probably zero intentionality, I think all of our coaches are a little superstitious about, looking ahead. And we're far from being good enough to be doing that anyway. So that's not a temptation, but it'd be naive to say that we're not aware of what everybody else is capable of, because they're on your computer screen every day.
Are you a superstitious guy?
No, I'm a routine guy, so it's not the superstition.
So the same sandwich every game, like the same meal, or do you mix it up?
That type of thing.
Okay.
You know, it's not a superstition. It's just I love routine. I think that's a comfort level and more than anything. And I'm really not rattled if I get out of it, but if I can protect it, I want to protect it. Same thing with my team. You know, as much as we can protect routine, I want to protect routine.
So if something happens positive, do you keep the same routine going into that, or do you mix that routine up for the next time?
It just depends. Was it an experiment, or was it something, you know, that accidentally happened, or was it planned and we loved it, you know? So I'm flexible, but protecting routine's the generic thing more than superstition.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you stopping by for Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Remember, Madison Deldine will be on the sideline. Devin Johnson will be in the booth with me, as we'll have our coverage with Enid and Broken Arrow this Friday night. Next time we see you, go Tigers.